Hi guys, welcome to the 14th episode of Ammonia Void. This time on a topic that you ask me a lot about, and it's about money versus no money. Something that we deal with, struggle with all the time. So, in this episode, I would like to talk about the fear of instability and also the dullness of comfort and how you can try to find balance between the two. How both states can block creativity because scarcity creates this anxiety and abundance breeds complacency. Um, so I would like to share with you the idea that balance is something you have to try to figure out, and for everybody the balance is different, and it's not necessarily a fixed thing, but rather something in flux, changing all the time with your situation, career wise, creatively wise. So let's dive into it. Um, the first thing is fear of instability. I think it's something that we all have felt or are feeling. Um, so I'd like to start with figuring out, or the first thing that to avoid the fear of instability is to calculate the minimum per month you need to sustain yourself and your living standard. So let's say the money for the rent, the money for food, that's the base. And this base you don't touch, and it's something that you always need for a month. It's like the starting point. You know that this is your threshold, and you go on from there. It will also help you to learn how to save money, um, because if one month you receive a lot, don't spend it, just save for the next few months, so you avoid yourself this fear and this anxiety that might come otherwise. um, on the other hand, I also feel that sad reality is that I think I created my best work when I was the most broke, when I felt the most emotionally unstable and not good. So I often question myself, like, am I destined to suffer to make good art? I don't know, but it often was like that, and that's sad, harsh reality. So I'll use in this episode the archetypes, three archetypes of who you can be as an artist. And I think the ideal is to figure out a balance between all three. So the first archetype that I'm sharing with you here is the broke romantic, who makes raw, urgent work out of necessity, which also often ties to this fear of instability. So now let's dive to the opposite problem, and that is the dullness of comfort. I will give you an example of what I heard recently, a story from a friend of mine. Um, she shared that sometimes it's just luck, It's not necessarily how you climb the ladder to be successful, but sometimes it's just pure luck. Sometimes you get viral, sometimes I don't know, algorithm works in your advantage. But what was her situation was that one day she just was at the right time, right place, and somebody saw potential in her work while she was actually in the very beginning of her career. And this person, let's say an investor, said, okay, I pay for everything, your materials, your studio, your travels, your hotels, your food, and you do whatever you want. This is like a golden ticket, right? You think, oh my god, everything is perfect. And what she told me, that in the beginning, of course, she was super excited, and she just set up her entire career, and she didn't have to think about, oh, I have to spend on this, or I cannot buy this. But she just purchased everything what she needed, and traveled, and was ready to continue her work. But what became the problem was that suddenly she lost purpose or urgency. So whenever she tried to make images, she felt like it lacks this authenticity, spirit. Um, she said, like, oh, I felt my art became really, really bland. So, you know, we often live in this idea that once we have money, everything will get better and our life, our creativity. But I also think that if you swim in money, it can also become a double-edged sword because the the art just loses this raw emotions, or the initial place where you started making art from is no longer there. So it's rather art made from comfort zone. And in the end, like, her story made me think that uh, maybe like excess of money shouldn't really be the goal of an artist, but rather trying to find balance, how your how your art creates impact, um, and find balance with kind of modest comfort, so that you can still maintain your purpose. Um, Personally, I don't think I've ever reached full financial comfort. By full financial comfort, I mean that I don't have to think about money when I purchase stuff or when I make big decisions, um, or that I don't have to worry about money. I still do. Um, so I just thought I'm gonna share this story with you of a person who reached some kind of financial comfort, so we can also have this perspective or point of view. So this time the archetype here is um, the successful creative who struggles with how financial comfort can still maintain authenticity in creativity in art. Um, and to share with you now a little bit from my own experience and, I don't know, a little bit of tips. Um, Recently, I quit my job, and before I was like a part-time, I had my part-time job and I was part-time freelancing, and now I'm full-time freelancer. And it was a big chunk because you have to reshuffle your balance, because before, my part-time job was the threshold for me. It would pay for my rent, it would pay for my groceries, and then I would hustle other stuff to save for later, or to see what I can do, and or just whatever. And now this stability is gone, so I had to figure out a different way how to operate, because um, you have to find a way how to make that threshold suddenly from nothing. And I also moved countries, as you know, so it was I was more on the anxious anxious archetype side the past few months. Um, but one of the things that really helped me was to not only think about myself as a photographer. So at the beginning of this stage, I wrote down on the paper what are all my skills that I have. And I realized that I'm not only a photographer, I also write, I curate, I work with other photographers to edit their work or to coach them. I like to teach. So by writing down your skills, you also realize, oh, I can actually monetize my skills. I'm not only a photographer. So if you're a full-time freelancer, you can figure out how to sustain yourself from all the different types of skills that you have. So now the third archetype, let's say, comes into play. I call it the pragmatist, who treats the money just as another material or tool. So you always think about money, okay, it can help enable me to sustain myself, to continue my work. So I just have to figure out how. So for instance, in my case, whenever I have some extra money, I always invest it in film, so that I can continue making new work, so that I don't get stuck, even in moments when I'm not doing very well financially, so that I always have film in my fridge. And also for this episode, what initially inspired me was some questions that I received from you guys. So I thought, okay, at this second part of the episode, I will answer the questions that you asked me. And they are like general thing that artists share, or I think everybody has different answer, but maybe they're certain parts that are very relatable. So let's just dive into them. So the first question, I have it written here. How do you navigate the landscape of making money but still making art that you care about deeply? This was a very difficult thing because thanks to my part-time job before, I um, I didn't have to take in how do I call it, commissions that I didn't want to do, uh, because I could simply do my part-time jobs and take on the gigs that resonated with me. But now, when I'm a full-time freelancer, this was something that I had to reconsider. But I always have this rule for myself, um, that I don't take on creative side hustles that kill my soul. Sometimes I just receive really weird requests from people for photo shoots or whatever it is, and sometimes I even wonder if I would actually make it alive from these type of requests. So I I just set up a boundary for myself. Um, Even though when I can get some extra money, it's a boundary, create your creative boundary as an artist to say yes or no to paid gigs. The same if somebody asks me to take pictures of a wedding, it's not really close to my practice. So if I take on a gig, I really want to resonate with it because you put in energy and you put in your creativity. So maybe after you won't have any left for your personal projects, which sucks eventually. I know a lot of people who can actually do both. They just separate themselves completely from, let's say, the persona of Linda going to a commercial shoot. No, they have like a either a separate persona, or they just detach themselves completely so they can take on these gigs and it doesn't affect them. Maybe it's a skill that people learn, but I just don't have it yet. So for myself, it's also part of this balance between the archetypes that I'm talking about here, that for me this is still like a testing ground. And another thing that really helps me is that if I feel too broke, think about how you can find abundance in non-monetary resources. Um, for instance, there's always a lot of gigs, or not gigs, or events that happen and they're for free. And you never know who you will meet there. Maybe you talk to somebody and they give you the gig that you were looking for and that you would like to do, or you find new models, whatever, new friends. And and of course, through gratitude and meditation, it can also redirect your mind outside of this anxiety and think about the things that you want to invite into your life and that you are happy with. So your mind is in this state that you know what you actually want and what you're looking for. And on the other hand, if you're in this too big of a comfort zone, if you have a lot of money, um, maybe you should look for situations where you can take a bit of risk or do some inner work, so that you can grow and so that you can still find creativity and authenticity within yourself and how you work. So the second question that I got here is, did you have a strong creative network of people who wanted to support you? Um, in the beginning, it was just me. Nobody really understood what I was doing. My parents were not really fans of me pursuing an artistic career. So if your drive comes from within and you know that, okay, I really want to do this, you don't really need people in the beginning. You just need your faith, your endurance, determination. Um, and I'm a photographer like 12 years. So over those 12 years, it took a lot of time, but I think I managed to build a community of people who follow my work. And it's not something that just emerges out of itself, but I like to think about it as a cycle. So let's say I make work, I receive support, and I also try to give back. And if you continue this in this loop, this is how you can grow your community, because people must feel related to what you do and that they actually get something in return for their support. Um, so this was also one of the reasons why I made this channel, to talk to people and also share my thoughts and struggles openly, with the hope that it will eventually resonate with people. And I see that it does, because um, since I started, I received some messages, personal messages, about how the videos help you overcome certain obstacles in your life, career, or creative practice. And I'm always very happy to receive those, as they make me feel that we are part of some kind of imaginary collective community that goes through the same things. And together we can help each other and grow, instead of doing everything on our own, isolated, you know. Um, so that brings me to another question. Um, did you have to be commercial for a bit to get a name? I think it's exactly the opposite. I feel the thing that people recognize me for is not my commercial work, but rather my personal projects, through which I develop my signature aesthetics and atmosphere. And thanks to those, I got some commissions as a result. So I think it, if you start as from a commercial point of view, it's very hard to identify you, because a lot of people do commercial stuff. So who are you? And if you have this very striking style, that's how you can get jobs. So you have to reverse it the other way around. Another question: did you have to struggle financially for a long time? The struggle is ongoing, to be honest. I always tell people that I seem to be losing money with my photography, as I keep investing in materials and trips to continue my work. So sometimes it just feels that I'm not making any money at all. Um, but I'm still convinced that I'm doing the right thing, and that's what keeps me going. So if I struggle financially, I try to think about what other skills I can use, so that I can free myself from this burden, let's say. But it's not been easy. I'm not gonna lie. Like, and you go through these ups and downs, so you have to be flexible towards that as an artist. So what are the takeaways of this episode? Number one: scarcity and abundance are both creative traps, so be careful. So scarcity can create anxiety, too much of money can create complacency. So they can both like stifle art. So you have to be careful, like, where do you lean towards to. Second one is to find your threshold. Know the minimum you need to survive, so you can make clear choices. Number three: money is cyclical. By that I mean, when you have more, invest it in sustaining your artistic practice, for the times when you might not have enough. This is four. Number four: authenticity matters, because it is usually the personal work that creates recognition and later opportunities, rather than the other way around. So try to remember that. Another one is community is currency. I don't mean it in any bad way. It's actually the potential of community, because resonance, reciprocity, and support networks are as valuable as money itself. So don't forget that, because sometimes people get so blinded by money that they forget why they're actually doing things. And the last one: balance is something ongoing. So the point is not to really solve money, but to stay aware of its shifting role in your creative life, because it will never stay the same. I hope you find this episode useful. If you have any more questions, feel free to send them over to me. I can answer them in the next episode. Thank you for listening, and see you soon. Bye bye.